hard to focus, just to persevere and just to make it. But everything that's within your grasp, you gotta take it, you gotta go harder. Just dig deeper inside you to find that method, that mode that wants that hunger to survive, just to ride the grind, to take it the way you gotta take it and never stop. I came to win, yeah, I came to win. I came to win, yeah, I came to win. I came to win, yeah, I came to win. Can't no one stop me, yeah, bring it in. I came to win, yeah, I came to win. Top down, faded windows tinted. Push it with it, push it to the limit. Top down, faded windows tinted. Push it with it, push it to the limit. Push it with it, push it. Winning so much that they seem wrong. Never gonna lose, that's my theme song. I'm just a kill Billy Jean zone. Back to reality.
Let's go. Yo, listen up everybody, have you heard the news? Got a brand new show that's breaking all the rules. Started out from BA and now we on the move. From local to global, cause we got something to prove. We came from the bottom, now we at the tippy top. To hold it down for our people, cause we all we got. It's a cold, cold world, but we keeping it hot. With our future on the line, ain't no time to stop. All work over here, still we having fun. Yeah, we say it like it is, ain't no holding our tongue. Go get us on the team, yeah, we getting it done. And shout out to Travell, yo, you number one. It started with a dream that turned into a vision. To educate new generations is our mission. Ears to the streets, yeah, we steady politicking. If it ain't about to change, mind your business.
Now wait again, minute, wave your hands with it. Wait again, minute, wave your hands with it. Now wait again, minute, wave your hands with it. We top picks like we all up on the gram with it. Now wait again, minute, wave your hands with it. Now wait again, minute, wave your hands with it. Now wait again, minute, wave your hands with it. We top picks like we all up on the gram with it.
Or it's like, Mylira, what do you want? And if somebody say, what you doing this weekend, you can join me. But you're joining me instead of me joining you. I forgot what I was listening to, but they said it in a way that really resonated with me. They was like, how can you expect for people to fill your cup if you're giving them a clean slate of nothing? If you can't tell a person what you like, what you don't like, what you need, how to show up, then what you're doing is giving them a clean slate. So you're going to continue to attract people that's going to use you because you gave.
Now tune into another episode of WAGM Minute. I am Gam, and I have to apologize to you, to my guests, because my co-host isn't here tonight. But guess what? I mean, you still got me, so we're gonna be good.
Yes.
So tonight we have a special guest by the name of Mylira Green. So how are you, madam?
I'm doing well. I am definitely doing well. I will say mommyhood was real hood today, but we made it through. They both alive, and I'm alive too, so we good.
Look at God. Look at God. So with that being said, please introduce yourself to our viewers and listeners of WAGM Minute podcast.
Absolutely. Well, my name is Mylira Green. I am a licensed clinical social worker by trade, but I serve as a certified trauma professional, as a therapist, clinical supervisor, transformative speaker, life coach, and master healer. But honestly, I'm just a servant of God. Whatever it is that I can do to serve God's people so that they can be alive one more day, that is what I strive to do.
Whew, that was a lot. And see, to be honest with you, when I got the bio, I said, it's no way possible I'm going to get up here and start saying these words. So, I felt like when I did ask you for your bio, you came with it just that quick. So I knew that you would have no problem actually, letting people know who you are. So in layman's terms, break that down a little bit more.
Absolutely. So layman's terms, what I am is the antidote to your life's cancer. We all have something that can hinder us from living our fullest potential. So I have taken the years of training to not just heal other people, but to heal myself first. So from my own experiences, it was like, Mylira, you got to figure out how to reach this purpose. Like I always said that my life purpose was so huge. I was just waiting for my flesh to catch up. Wow. So I started to study the brain, study the mind, study trauma, study generational patterns, especially in the African-American community. And from that, I became this certified trauma professional, not because I want to perpetuate trauma, but to normalize it in such a way that people understand how to overcome it, how to thrive from it, how to not stay there. Right. And that is what I do in everything that I do. So when I'm showing up as a therapist, it is, okay, how can we shift your mindset? Because it's never about your circumstances changing that change your life. It's your perspective of it that changes it. Wow. Then as a clinical supervisor, I teach other clinicians of how to truly help your clients. We do a disservice just focusing on book work. That's right. But it's learning how to marry the practical with the book work. So I do that in that space. As far as my healing go, I am a Reiki master, and a lot of times people are like, what is that? It's literally healing through hand placements. That's what I was about to ask. Yeah, so it's healing through hand placements, and I remember getting into that because both of my children have allergies that trigger asthma. Okay. And I remember at night, I'm like, yo, we just did a breathing treatment and you just got all this medicine. And I felt hopeless. It was like, why are you still coughing? And I kept having this inkling to place my hands on them. And then I learned that it's actually an Asian cultural thing that they call it Reiki. And I went in and I became a master of that. So everything that I do is truly to heal people at the core. In any capacity. Like I'm really like a what do they call me, a chameleon when it comes to just life in general. Like I really want to help people not just live and exist, but truly live out their full purpose. Right.
So out of all the things in the world, you coming up as a little girl, how did you come up with all of this though?
So I have had a lot of trauma in my life. So age 3, I was exposed to sexual play. And that is what kind of started my foundation. And in that space, because nobody was talking about it, I didn't really know it was wrong until I knew it was wrong. Right. And then it felt wrong. And then I felt like I was wrong or there was something wrong with me. And then at 13, when I finally realized that type of play was not okay, I went the complete total opposite. Then it was, I'll just say my favorite song was Laffy Taffy back in the day. Don't ask me to sing it because I still know it. Yes. So I went the total complete opposite. Right. But at the same time, that's when I found out I was morbidly obese. Okay. So imagine having this play that you had, and I was joked growing up because I would share with people that's my play, so they would call me gay or they would call me certain things, and because I didn't know what it was like, okay, but it didn't feel good to me. So 13 was my first time ever having a suicidal ideation. And I remember it being so bad that I had to go to my doctor every week to take what they call a PHQ-9, so it's a patient health questionnaire. And they basically want to know, are you suicidal? Right.
So what actually transpired, or triggered you to try to commit suicide at 13?
So it was me being a freshman in high school, and I was the youngest freshman. And I remember, I think it was day 2 of school. And back then they made you do another physical when you got to gym. So
I used to hate that.
Yeah. So the teacher was like, hey, get on the scale. I already knew I was obese. I've been to the doctor, whatever. Right. But it was the way she said it. And I remember, and I still love her to this day. She didn't mean any harm, but it was the way that she said it for me. And I remember getting on the scale and she was like, get off the scale. And I was like, okay. She's like, get back on the scale. I was like, all right. She told me get back off again. Got on it. She was like, do you know you're 215 pounds? Is how she said it that made me feel so disgusted. I was like, if she feels that way about me, how will my peers feel about me? Absolutely. And I had already been struggling with my weight for a long period of time, but it was that moment that solidified for me, Mylira, literally there's something wrong with you. And I remember going into the locker room after gym. I didn't want to change out in front of the girls. I went and changed in the stall. I was sitting there. My parents was like, what's wrong with you? Because I was in marching band. So all the girls came around like, Mylira, this is not your normal bubbly self. What's up? Right. And I said, I don't want to be here no more. And I literally remember it was 5 of them. They all surrounded me. And they was like, no, you're going to live. You're not going to die. But that was the first time in my mind I was like, why would I want to be here if people think I'm disgusting? Right. If people don't even want to look at me? And that's really what kind of sparked me being in that dark place.
So what would you say to the younger you? Because you are getting on up there now. And you're right behind me now. So
yes, I would tell her, girl, you're the ish. Literally. Right. I think that I spent so much time wanting to hear other people tell me how great I was that I never told myself that. I would tell everybody else. Right. So I would tell her the same way that you take time to build other people up. Take this time to build you up. Look in the mirror the same way people tell you their imperfections and you tell them how perfect they are. Look at the parts of you that makes you perfect. And even if it's not even your physical at first, but think about how your brain process. Think about how you love people. Think about how you show up. It will literally be like pour into your cup. I have this analogy. I tell people like life is like a rose bush, right? You go to it, the roses are beautiful, but when you get to the actual bush, there's way more thorns than it is roses. So you got two options. You're either going to go through life as a paper cup or you're going to go through life as a glass vase. A paper cup, if I'm going through that and I prick, everybody else is benefiting from you because it don't change what's on the inside. It just changed the fact that you have no control over who's getting your purpose. Wow. But when I'm a glass vase, I get to decide when I pour it out. When I was a younger me, I was a paper cup. Everybody benefited from me. The bright girl, I was everybody's friend. It didn't matter. I was in everybody's group.
Right.
You know, but when I would go home, I was so depleted and so empty. And it's because everybody could benefit from the greatness of Mylira, but Mylira never could do that. Wow. So I would tell her, girl, be a glass vase. Decide when you pour out. Decide when you have enough capacity to give more than what you're giving right now. That's what I would tell her.
Right. I think, and listening to you talk to the younger you, I actually, it actually resonated with me a lot too, because you know, I think most people probably do. They pour into other people or try to make other people feel good about themselves. But on the inside, it's like you have a lot going on. You know what I'm saying, too. But people don't recognize, or I'm not even going to say they don't recognize. Sometimes it's about what they want, what they need. And you're, like you say, you're constantly giving and filling them up. But at the same time, it's like you're slowly seeping into depression or whatever, and just listening to you is like, wow. So it just give me some things that I need to think about and figure out, you know, what I need to be doing, because that kind of hit home for me right there. I ain't even gonna lie to you. But I wanted to ask you, doing the job that you're called to do, because I really believe that you're called to do it. How do you fill your cup?
So I am really learning how to do that, to be honest with you, because I was in denial for so long. Mm-hmm. You know, I would say, hey, this is what God has called me to do. You know, I get filled when I do my sessions and when I show up for people, it makes me happy. But what was really happening is I realized I was doing all of that for the hope that somebody would give Mylira attention, for the hope that somebody would love me, for the hope that I would do it enough that they would want to be around me by choice and not because I forced them or not because I guilted them into it. So now I'm learning that I have to be that safe place and that I have allowed God to be that safe place. And this is like a recent epiphany for me, because I would find joy and happiness of filling everybody else up, that I became everybody's safe place. But I didn't have my own safe place. And now it's me learning what I like, what I don't like. I enjoy comedy. So twice a month, I'm going to go to somebody's comedy club or something. I love music. You put on music. I am going to move. I don't care. I can be sick as a dog and I'm going to percolate it. If it's a percolate, come on. But I am, and I love to make people laugh. Like I'm learning to enjoy my own company. I love movies, you know, like now I have like this whole every other weekend situation going. So on my every other weekend, I plan intentionally what I'm going to do, you know, and I don't wait for plans with other people anymore. It's like, Mylira, what do you want? And if somebody say, what you doing this weekend, you can join me, but you're joining me instead of me joining you. I forgot what I was listening to, but they said it in a way that really resonated with me. They was like, how can you expect for people to fill your cup if you're giving them a clean slate of nothing? If you can't tell a person what you like, what you don't like, what you need, how to show up, then what you're doing is giving them a clean slate. So you're going to continue to attract people that's going to use you because you gave them nothing to do anything with. And that really resonated with me because I remember over the years, I would find joy and pride morphing into what that person needed. You know, it felt good when that person said, oh my God, Mylira, thank you so much. Or you really helped me.
Right.
But what I was doing was attracting people that was going to continue to use me because I gave them nothing. So now it's like me learning to be my own safe place. So then when I do get a human safe place, because God is going to always be that for me.
Right.
But when I get that human safe place, it will be an individual that I've been able to say, this is my expectations. This is what I like. This is what I don't like. And I give it to myself first, because life is a mirror. It's going to mirror what I give me. So if I give myself that unconditional love and understanding and showing up for me and all those things, then other people are going to have to do the same.
So how do we get there though? Like, because the average person, you know, they don't know how to get there. Like, so how would you tell, or what would you tell someone for them to get on the other side of the hill?
So I would say acknowledge it as a process. Like, as I'm talking to y'all today, I'm still in the middle of this process.
Right.
And if it wasn't for the fact of me transitioning to being a divorcee, I probably would have never got to that point. Because my whole life was to make sure my spouse was good, my children was good, the people I work for was good. So Mylira wasn't a thought. I didn't have to think about it. But now it's like, no, sis, you got to really deal with you. I had to acknowledge it was a process. I had to acknowledge that I'm going to make some wrong turns. Like, for me, moment of transparency, I'm a relational person. I don't do single good. I really don't. I don't. I've never been happily single.
Okay.
And I had to acknowledge the why I've never been happily single. And it's because I've always felt like I was this black sheep. Like, I'm this bright light that everybody loves, but I call myself the most popular person ever. Wow. What do I mean by that? Everybody knows me, but I've never had my own intimate space where I was important. I made everybody else kind of important.
When I tell you, you are talking to me right now, go ahead.
So for me, when I was single, it was a reiterator of, Mylira, you just the person that people can rely on, but you can't rely on nobody. So what that told me was just keep showing up. So at least I'll never be by myself. So now I have to learn, not necessarily I don't do single well anymore, but it's more of Mylira, you got to do Mylira well.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
So for that person, I will say, as you're going through, allow it to be a process and journey. Like, I have not made all the right decisions in this space, but I'm okay with that because any person I've entertained in this space, even when we're talking about safe places and things like that, I enjoy intimacy, whether that's through friendships, platonic, or relational. It is what it is. But for me, it was more of each person I've allowed in my space, I allow it to be a lesson. I'll allow it to teach me. So it's like, okay, when I entertain this one person, okay, you taught me I like this, but I definitely don't like that.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so I've taken it as a fun journey of really learning. I think if you make it fun, then that's when you create this space of filling your own cup. Because now I'm getting excited to date me. I'm getting excited to do things. Yeah. And then if someone want to come along and we have some fun, or, you know, we go out or whatever, then that's that moment. But that moment is not defining me. So I give myself just the permission to, like, flow through life the way that I desire. And then also bring it into my faith. I'm like, God, you're working all things out for my good. So I'm very intentional with my prayer life too, because I'm like, God, as much as I want to have fun, because I haven't been single in 11 years, I still know that my purpose is too big. Everybody don't need to be in my space. Right. So it's incorporating the intentionality, but then allowing myself to just enjoy. You know, if it's one time I meet up with that person, that's that one time. But I'm going to walk away like, okay, what did I like from this? What didn't I like from this? And then now I can take it with me and incorporate it into my everyday.
And, you know, I think for a lot of us, though, well, not a lot of us, I would say, but for some people, I look at them in talking to them, right? I feel like some people that I know personally, they aren't happy with who they are, right? So they think that being with someone else is going to make them happy. Okay, that's cool if you want to accept that. But when that person leaves, guess what? Your happiness is going bye-bye too. Yep. So I think we have to be happy with who we are before we allow somebody. I put it this way. I think a person can enhance your happiness. They can't make you happy. Yeah. So
we have to understand, like, life is a mirror, man. Like, that actually is a thing. you are going to attract what you give to yourself.
Okay.
You know, and I've said this before, even when it comes to my marriage. When I first got married, I was 21 years old. And I remember when he first proposed, I was young. Mm-hmm. And when he first proposed, I remember saying, dang, I never knew that a man would even want me to be their wife.
Why you say that?
Because, again, the message that I kept having was I'm not enough. Growing up, not only did I get joked for my sexuality, but I also got joked from my outer appearance. So I would hear the guy say, oh, you're a beautiful face, but you're not a girl I would take home to my mom. So then I became very promiscuous. So I would utilize different things to get that attention. Mm-hmm. So then when I got with my husband at the time, it was like, oh, somebody really wants me to be their wife. So even in that moment, not that he was a bad guy or whatever, but in that moment, my value was at nothing. So I said yes because anything was better than the nothing I was giving myself.
Wow.
So then it now lasted, it would have been 10 years in May if we are not going through this divorce. But at that moment, I mirrored what I gave myself, which was absolutely nothing. I tell people, if you love yourself 70% and somebody come loving you 71%, that 1% feels so good to you that you're going to settle for anything. Yeah. So it's the space of literally taking that time out. And that's why I tell people now, like, do I want a forever husband one day? Absolutely. I'm not rushing to that, though. Right. Because I'm learning, Mylira, over the years, you've never taken the time out to be this loving energy to yourself. Okay. So now, whoever I'm attracting, each time I'm attracting somebody, it is the new me that I'm giving to myself every day. And I think when people can understand that there's a new you every single day, you should never show up the same way every day. And people don't understand that. That's why I tell people, I expect for you to change. If you don't change, I got a problem.
Yeah, I got an issue.
Because every single day you should be learning something new. There should be a new conversation you had, something that you listen to. So when I come into the day, I'm literally reflecting on, okay, who is this coming in today? What's going to make me happy today? Being intentional. And then when it doesn't make me feel good, I don't deny my feelings. Like, you know, some people, because of their role, whether they're a therapist or a minister, or they're like, no, I'm not sad today. No, I am sad.
Right, that's right.
I'm not happy today. Because the more I'm able to actually do that, the better off I'm able to really prune those things off of me that don't make me happy. But we don't give ourselves permission to even go through that process and journey. We think that we're always supposed to show up a certain way. Right. We think that we're always supposed to have it all together. It's my imperfections that make me good. Right, it's not the things that I'm perfect in. The things I'm perfect in is those things that I put my mask on to make sure people think I'm good. No, it's those other things. So if there's someone listening that may be like, you know, I hear what she's saying, that sounds good. Listen, it's not rocket science. It literally is, you choose that I want to be happy with myself. And you figure out what that happiness is, and it's a trial and error.
It is, and I think for a lot of people though, we don't want to visit that place, because when we visit that place, it's like we're going back to maybe it may be trauma, it may be whatever it is, our past, and we don't want to revisit. So, like you said, we'll accept anything from anybody just to, you know, get, whether we're smiling today, we're laughing, or crying at the same time. Yeah. So how do we pivot from, I listened to what you were saying, you were talking about being intentional about who you're around and things like that. How do we, if we know we're supposed to cut somebody off, we know that they're not good for us, we know that all the signs are there, but we still have them around. Like, why do we continue to do that, one? And two, how do we cut them off?
So the why they're still around is because they're filling whatever that void is. You know, for me, my void was I never thought that I was enough. Okay. So, and that's why I have like my I'm enough thing. That's what I talk about all the time, because it's a reminder to me that I am enough. But when you don't feel like you're enough, if you don't feel like you're valuable, if you feel like there's something missing or you're never going to get something, then when someone shows up, even in the minimal of amount, you're going to be okay with them showing up minimally. Okay. Because I already told myself that I wasn't enough. So their presence is showing me opposite, even if it doesn't feel good. So that's the first piece. It's understanding that that person is filling a void that only you can really feel. But until you feel it, they're going to be a great substitute. But that great substitute is going to keep hurting you. It's going to serve as that cancer in your body that's going to slowly kill you because they're not supposed to be there. They're not that fit there, but we make them that because it feels good in the moment. But then as far as how do we walk away, I tell people, there's this saying that I got from one of the coaches that I talked to, and it is every yes you give is a no to something else, and every no you give is a yes to something else. So every time I say yes to be in this presence with this person, I'm saying no to something else that's important to me. Whether that's my peace, whether that's my time, whether that is something else, but really being able to be mindful that anytime I say yes to something, I'm saying no to something else. And I have to know if that no is actually worth it. That's number one. Right. And then also with that is also understanding that I can't get this time back. You know, there's this quote by Lex Brown. He says, most people die at age 30, they just don't get buried until they're 70. So you got to ask yourself, like, are you dying because this person's in your space? And sometimes it may feel okay. Like, we literally love safety and security and all that, but safety and security don't come because the environment's safe. It comes because I feel like I belong. So if I've been with this person for a long period of time and you make me feel like I belong, I have to get over the fear that if I walk away from you, the fear is I'm never going to have somebody else. And a lot of times that's what keeps people in relationships. Like, people have asked me, like, when did you know you wanted to get a divorce? I said, sadly, I didn't. He asked. I did not.
That's all I was going to ask you about your divorce.
Yeah, like, I didn't ask. Like, it was years of a lot of different things that was happening, but it was finally him saying, like, yo, I don't want to hurt you no more. And he decided I was going to work on it again, you know, because I believed in my commitment. But it was at that time, though, that it was like, yo, am I going to continue to settle to be in this space all for the sake of this is what I'm used to? You know, or am I going to tell myself, well, if he leaves, then I'm never going to have nobody? No, I'm a believer. I'm somebody's forever wife. I'm wifey material all day. I know that.
And so basically what you're saying, 10 toes down.
10 toes down. That's what I am. Right. But at the same time, it's a space of, because I know that I am not in a space where I fear or feel like I have to now try to chase him again, or I have to settle for this because I feel like I'm not enough. No, I now know I'm a gift. So when it comes to these relationships that you know are not good for you, whether it's a friend or romantically, you have to know that you're the gift. You have to know that you're valuable. You have to know that you're worth more than this. So if it felt good with them and they were giving you minimal, imagine what it's going to feel like when somebody actually sees you for who you are. That's true. And that is what gives me that, like, okay, I ain't got to settle now. But I think people are afraid because it's like, if I don't have this, then what I'm going to have. Or you hit the horror stories. You know, I've been single for 20-something years. Right. Listen, if you've been single for 20-something years, everybody don't want to hear that story. I'm just saying. Now, I'm really playing with y'all. But for real, it's the space of that fear. That fear, well, what's going to happen on the other side if I don't have this person in my life? Because most people don't want to be alone. Yeah. They really don't. And because of that, we will settle for anything. But it's asking what am I saying yes to? And then also getting over that fear, because you're not going to be able to get the time back.
So what do you say to someone, you know, because we're in this era of, you know, I'm a strong woman, I don't need anybody, you know, I can do this by myself. And because I have a lot of friends like that. They're like, I'm a serial entrepreneur, or whatever the banner that they hold. And they feel like they don't need anyone in their life. Is that such of a thing?
So this is Mylira's thinking. Okay, I believe that we're like cell phones, and just like a cell phone, we can only do 80% of this life by ourselves. When your cell phone gets to 20%, it gives you a message, either energy save mode or cancel. If you push cancel, you might as well go ahead and put it in the charger, because it's not gonna work. So I tell people, you can do 80% of this life by yourself, but when you get it at 20%, you accomplish way more when you have the right chargers plugged in to charge you up. And I think we do a disservice. Like, I really do believe if we were meant to do life on our own, our Creator is so amazing that He could have put us on our own planets, on our own asteroid, on our own star if He wanted to. But He put us on Earth with millions of other people why would he want us to do this life by ourselves? And I think the hardest part is people don't know how to people today. We really don't.
Yeah.
So it's this space of what people are really saying is it's not that they want to do it by themselves. They don't want to be hurt. I don't want to open up the door to be hurt.
So it's a bigger picture behind what they
Correct. It's like, why would I even open myself up to having anybody come with me if in the past I did that and you hurt my feelings?
Right.
Or when I tried to rely on somebody, this is what you did. And I think a big part of it is fear. And what we've done, especially in this new age, and, you know, I love all my entrepreneur women because that's what I am too. Like, I get it. But we do ourselves a disservice when we have this, like, me, myself, and I mentality. Because I'll say it this way. If I had this me, myself, and I mentality, and I worked so hard to build this legacy, and my children turn 18, and I give them my businesses, and they look at me and they say, lady, who are you?
Right.
What did I do it for?
Yeah.
So it came a point of time where for the last, because I've been in business, it'll be 8 years in September. I did the first 6 years by myself. Mm-hmm. And doing it by myself, I realized what I could have accomplished by now if I had a team. Right. If I had people to come alongside me. And when people have this conversation, we automatically think romantic. It's not even just romantic. We need a village.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, you need a village. I don't do this single mom, you know, no, boo.
Yeah.
I want my kids to have aunts and uncles and grandparents and things like that so that they can learn things that may not have experienced. So I think it goes back to that, again, you really can only do 80% of this thing by yourself. And you're going to end up drowning, not allowing for other people to come alongside you and charge you up. It's just making sure that you know that you got the right charger cords.
Correct.
That's the piece. Like, some of us are upgraded phones still trying to use the joint from Nokia. You can't do that.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that's when the problem comes in is we're relying on old sources to charge us up instead of putting ourselves in new environment and new rooms and new spaces, having conversations like this to be like, oh, okay, that person kind of thinks like me. Okay, let me, you know, get that person's help. So I would say to that person, I'm not saying that you can't do a good chunk of it by yourself, but I will say that it's not smart to do it that way because eventually you are going to burn out.
Yeah. And listening to you talk about that, it reminds me of business as well. Like, you can only do but so much or get so far in the business, in, you know, whatever field you're in. You have to start collaborating. You have to start networking with people or whatever because they can help get you to the next level where you kind of might be stuck at.
Yeah.
You know, so Mylira, why are you so transparent?
Man, because it was killing me. Literally, it was killing me. I grew up with two amazing parents. But mentally and emotionally, they didn't know how to support me.
Okay.
So it contributed to the darkest thoughts. Like, I dealt with suicidal ideations from 13 until 30. And I'm 30.
Wow.
So for me, it was a thing of the more I started to share my story and the more I would hear women say, oh my God, I never knew other people had miscarriages. Or, oh my God, I never knew that.
Okay, what's miss?
So a miscarriage, that's when the baby begins to form. Okay. And there's something that's happened during the pregnancy where it basically deconstructs itself.
Oh, wow.
So where you go 1 minute and there's a baby, there's a heartbeat, and then the next minute there's no sign of the baby at all. And you have to decide how you want to basically get rid of that pregnancy. Because if you keep it, then you can basically get sick because of whatever is going on inside of your womb. So I experienced that with my first child that I got pregnant with. And then soon after that, I had another miscarriage after that. Okay. So that kind of really started the piece. But I do remember even before that in college, I used to go to different like women support groups. And this one time they was talking about sexual abuse and assault. And it was my very first time publicly outside of my family kind of sharing my story. And after I finished, I left, went to the bathroom, and it was this one girl, me and her still friends to this day. She was like, thank you so much for sharing your story. And then she started to share hers.
Okay.
And the power that I felt that she had just from hearing little old me story, there was something about that to me. And that's literally where it started. And it was like I started doing the Facebook Lives, and when things happen, and everybody don't like it, and it's okay. But I started to utilize that even up till now, even talking about my divorce and just how I am. And I used to get people ask, like, are you afraid they're going to take your license away from you? Because as a therapist, you know, there's some information that they're like, people shouldn't know. I'm like, if they take my license away from me, it just means God got something else for me.
Right.
But I do it for the liberation for other people. Because if not, it was literally killing me on the inside. Because it's like, again, I'm everybody's safe place. Where's my safe place? And I would go to therapy. But, like, my therapist is one of them. She's like, Mylira, you know all the answers. Like, she fired me real quick because she'd be like, why you going to see me? And I love her for it, though, because she's like, you got it. But when I am going through, I don't have that one person to sit down and be like, look, girl, this is what I'm going through. I'm that for everybody. So social media has become that. And I don't use it as a diary. Now, in my younger years, yeah, I did. I be looking at the memories, be like, girl, why? But now I'm very intentional about how I share and what I share. Because I do believe that you got to get in bed with your story to conceive your purpose. I cannot function in my purpose if I'm ashamed of my story. And the thing that really helped me with my transparency is I said the things that people want to throw me in jail for, whether it's a physical jail, mental jail, emotional, Jesus already died for that.
Yeah.
So what you're trying to condemn me for has already been covered. Right, and when I'm sharing my stories, it's typically on the other side of healing. The only one that I haven't been able to do that was with my divorce because of the different things surrounding the divorce. But typically when I'm sharing, it's after I've overcome and I have steps that I can share with a person that's practical. Right. So I'm not like that person that's going to like bleed on you, be like, here's my information. No, I'm going to tell you what's up and I'm going to give you the steps that I took to get to this place. And just seeing people liberated does something for me. Like, there's 139 successful suicides every day. And if my little story can be that story to get somebody to be like, oh, I'm not by myself, it's worth it to me. It's worth the family members telling me I ain't talking to you no more. It's worth the people that want to talk about me. It's worth the people that may not give me opportunities because they feel like, oh, she's just too transparent. If it is saving a person, my transparency is worth it.
Yeah, definitely. And then, like, people may not understand it, and it's not for them to understand. So you accept people for who they are. Be like, okay, well, if you don't want to talk to me anymore, okay, that's one less person I got to talk to.
Yeah. That's
one less headache, whatever. But I heard you when you said from 13 to 30. Your last suicide ideology was
about 6 months ago, yes.
So can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, so I'm a sensitive being. I'm real powerful. I know the information, but I'm very sensitive. And one of my biggest challenges have been in motherhood. Both of my children are amazing gifts, but they're me 100-fold, right? Okay. So there are times where I have challenges and I have struggles, and I may reach out to my village for like support and help.
Okay.
I'm a gentle parent, so that already comes with the.
Yeah.
So, you're this gentle parent and you're like, I need help. They're like, you know what you're supposed to do. And I'm like, but I don't want to. But anyway, so 6 months ago, I think I kind of really hit it on the head. We were getting some testing done for my son just to make sure that he was set up for success. Okay. And at this time, I just felt so overwhelmed. And I remember asking for some support and some help, and it didn't go exactly the way that mentally and emotionally I needed it at the time. Okay. And I communicated that that's where my thoughts was going. But then there was well, why don't you do it anyway type thing. And I know that person didn't mean any harm, but it was at that moment where it was like, well, why don't I do it? Why am I continuing to keep going? Like, here I am, this person that is constantly pouring into people. Like, I wake up pouring into people. It could be 4:30 in the morning. You get a grand rising boo. Yeah. Grand rising love, king, queen. Like, that is me, right? And when the moments that I do get weak and I say, hey, I need your help, the response is, we got to walk on eggshells. The response is, here she is and she's blowing this thing up. So then now I'm like, well, am I a bad person? Like, what's going on? So it's like I could be this thing out in the world, but when it comes to my own personal stuff, I don't have the answers. And that is what kind of sparked that in that moment. But I will say the thing that has kept me alive and kept me from not having those thoughts is I genuinely know that I'm a great person. And it took me to being 30 to know that. I didn't know that I was a good person. I will say this. Sometimes I get a point that when you are a helper, it serves you. Okay? If anybody, eventually it does become transactional, especially when you've done it all your life and you never got it back. So eventually it was like, I'm doing this transactionally. Like if I give enough, somebody's going to catch me. And I realized that people wasn't going to catch me because there's some people that God made to be the poor. But then you have to figure out, like, where does it go? And at that moment was like, that's what I had to figure out. Mylira, you can't depend on certain people just because they have a certain title or role in your life. Like, you really got to find your own safe place. You really have to find and look in the mirror and know who you are. Know that you are who the world says you are. The world's been telling me for years how great I am. I didn't believe that.
You didn't believe it, yeah.
So it got to a point where when that moment happened, and it happened in front of my children, and I broke down, and to this day, my son, and he's 5, he'll say, Mommy, you remember that time?
Right.
And you broke down and cried? Like, that breaks my heart. They don't know everything that was happening in that moment, but they saw me just literally have this, like, inner scream and cry of, like, where is my safety? Where is my safe place? And seeing my kids crumble because I'm crumbling, I was like, I can never have this moment again. It doesn't mean I can't be sad again. It doesn't mean I can't have a hard day. But what it means is I'm never going to allow for the lack of support to get me to a place where I don't want to live anymore. Yeah. Especially when I advocate for it so much. And then I started this journey to really, really loving me. And I love the heck out of me now.
Yeah. Look, I can tell, and there's nothing wrong with that. You loving you. And I think that's where a lot of us have to get to that place, because my thing is now here lately I've been asking God, like, show me me. Like, really show me me. I know who I say I am or whatever, and sometimes I kind of think I know who I am, but I'm talking about the inner me. Like, really show me me. And and it's like, I guess it's because the older I get, the more, like I was speaking to you before we started the episode, of overthinking. So it's like I wrote some things down. It's like now I'm trying to figure it out. And I want answers like now. So I'm like, God, like, I need you to show me me. Like, God, I need this, or God, I need that. And I need you to make it plain for me.
Man, listen, so I got excited in my shana now just then. I'm going to tell you why. We have to accept ourselves for exactly who we are.
Right.
It is the things about us that we want to change that is the cornerstone of us. I'm an overthinker. I am an overgiver. I'm a servant. That is who I am naturally to my core. Okay. Right? And it got to a point where even in that moment, I was like, God, like, what's going on? I know some people don't believe in astrology and all that stuff. And trust me, I don't dabble in anything that I'm like, God, you're going to cast me down. But I literally was like, God, I need to figure out who is Mylira. And I always like, the date of my birth is so special. So the day of your birth, where you're born, the time, it actually means something. Oh, wow. And when you begin to, they call it birth charts, right? And some people think weirdly about it, but it's really not. Like, it shows you who you are to your core. And when I started to learn that this is me naturally, then I'm naturally into health and wellness. I'm naturally into serving people. The things that I thought that I needed to change because I was tired of getting hurt is the very things that I needed to accept about myself. So then now I can create boundaries. So it's not about, I want to find out me and I want to find out the things that's going to, help me be this really great person. I'm never going to get hurt again. No, I'm going to accept the parts. Like, for example, even when it comes to being relational. And my best friends are going to laugh because they're like, Mylira, you need to stop telling people this. I am naturally a relational person. When I say I don't do single well, it's not because I woke up and I said I don't want to be single. Naturally, to my core, my chart tells me I function best with a lover. Oh, wow. So because I now know that, I had to create these boundaries and these expectations. Well, what type of love do I need? Instead of me running away from it, instead of me listening to everybody else, they're like, well, you're getting a divorce, so maybe you take like 3 years to be by yourself. Who? Not me. Like, so it's this space of, I had to like literally get to a space where I had to accept me for who I am, because until I did that, I allowed for everybody else to define who Mylira was. Instead of me knowing who I am to my core and being able to choose, again, it goes back to that glass vase. I now get to choose when I pour out in certain spaces.
Right.
Because I now know naturally I'm a servant. But because naturally I'm a servant, I'm going to need more time to fill my cup up, because that means on a day-to-day basis, from 7 to 5 o'clock and even beyond that, because I have kids, I'm pouring into somebody.
Right. Yeah.
So now I have to have times where even if it's just the 2 hours that I'm working out, or whether I'm meditating or I'm doing something, I now have to be intentional with my day, because I can't change naturally who I am, but I can change how I show up in the present, how I show up in the moment.
Okay. That's good. That's really good.
Yeah.
That's really good. Now, what's next for you?
Man, what is next for me? I am shifting my business to being more kingdom focused. I am really big on bringing mental health inside of the church. I
That's
believe, yeah,
It's needed.
I believe that faith is good, but people don't have faith if they don't believe it up here first. I love the scripture that says I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. But Mylira added a little something, and God is okay with it. And I said, but I can only go as far as I believe. If I don't believe that God thinks I'm valuable, if I don't believe that he loves me, if I don't believe that he can actually purify me and do these things, I'm just going to give a bunch of lip service, and I'm going to show up every Sunday and still not be full. Because this God that you're talking about is this foreign entity instead of him being inside of me. But it starts up here in my mind first. So I want my business to go into the church, really assess leadership, assess their ministries, and bring in a mental health component to it so that we can bring mind, body, and spirit. I do believe that there are millions of lives that's attached to me when it comes to salvation. And that's what we're going to be doing. So we're going to be launching that very soon. I'm getting my PhD as well. So I'll be done with that. Thank you. I'll be done with that next spring. Thank God. And that's really about consultation and those different pieces. So then I'm not just going in with this big desire, but I'm actually going in with the knowledge and things like that. Also, just continuing to explore who Mylira is. I tell people the me that you met today is not going to be the me you met yesterday.
Right.
You know, sometimes I say flowery words, and French is my main language. And in other days, I'm real something else. But genuinely, like, I'm just on this journey of happiness. Like, I believe that God wants us to experience his best. But we're not taught what his best really is outside of just saying the scripture.
Yeah.
But we don't really make it practical. And that's what's next for me, is making God so practical that through my life, people can see that your life is worth living.
Right.
You know? Yeah.
Well, I think two things. The first thing is making God practical is perfect, because a lot of times people don't read, right? We just go by what people say. So I think that'll be dope. And I think what even be even doper, taking the mental health in the church, because that is a place where it's the hospital, right?
Yeah.
So why not, get everything out, like you said, starting from the mental all the way down to the physical. So, and then helping with the leadership, because they have a lot going on. Like, it's one of them and hundreds and thousands of us. So they're dealing with what they have going on and all of what we're bringing to them too.
Yeah.
So, and we all know, like, people in church can be some of. I know this. The people that come, people be like, well, church people are the worst people. But you got to realize, like, we're the ones coming in church. Church is the building.
As you were talking, I literally got the visual of, because I tell people the church is supposed to be the hospital, but what we've made it is plastic surgery.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you come in, you tell them what the problem is. We give you a really quick fix.
BBL.
Whether it's whether it's a scripture, whether it's a quick mentor, whether it's, something from the food pantry,
right,
or I pay this bill, whatever. It's a quick fix. But what we're not doing is teaching people how to navigate in all 6 dimensions of their life. Even when it comes to, I was just having a conversation with somebody who was talking about the sexual part, right? Church don't want to talk about that.
Yeah.
And I had a young lady who was saying, like, church was her safe place, and that's where she was able to go share. I said, but a lot of people don't have that. You know, our young people are going to be like, look, I'm trying to figure out how to date. I'm trying to figure out how to not gamble, how to not go and do this gang activity. Like, a lot of the times people want to be great people. Very rarely do you meet a person that really just want to be, you know, a bad person. So when it comes to the church, it really is, we've made it this thing that is not the hospital. We're not trying to really take the time to help you heal, right? But it's not even to help you heal, it's helping you acknowledge the healing, because it already told you by his stripes you're already healed. So we already have the healing. It's just the church should be teaching me how to walk in that. Instead, we're not doing that. So then it's like, okay, well, where is this practical God? Because when I leave from service, I feel good, I praise God, hallelujah, and then I get in my car,
and go back to
or I have to order a Lyft or Uber, or I got to do whatever. Like, the church should be the thing that's actually providing employment. The church should be that thing where you can come and get your therapy at. And it's not just, oh, I'm going to thump the Bible at you at all. Like, I'm a holistic therapist. And people are like, how you do that and you believe in God? I said, because at the end of the day, everybody is God's creation. I told a story. I was talking about how one client that was homosexual, black nail polish, atheist, right?
Oh, wow.
At the end of the sessions that we had, they didn't have the black nail polish on, and they were speaking scripture. And it wasn't because I was telling them that Psalms 139 said this. I was just speaking.
Right.
They were speaking it. So by the time we discharged, now I didn't have this person life saved because I didn't judge. I didn't do whatever. That's what the church should be.
Yeah, absolutely.
But instead, we have these boxes that people check. And I say, Jesus was the best thing. Jesus didn't hang out with the Sadducees and Pharisees. He hung with the people that was doing the stuff. Like, so when we're looking at it, I really just want to make God practical. I want to heal the church because there's people walking away from the church. And I know that millennials, we don't even want to go in the church.
That's true.
Because we've had so much church hurt. So here I am, this person that people are like, Mylira, how you do the spiritual stuff, Christian stuff, blah, blah. I said, because at the end of the day, God is going to use me to speak to the people that nobody else is going to be able to speak to. Yeah. Because he is a real God. And we have to make him real, not this thing where you have to do stuff. And really, really quite frankly, most people are going to other religions because they're not afraid to answer the questions. Right, yeah. I remember for my 5 years when I was Hebrew Israelite, Kemetic science. What? Yes, that's why my kids' names is Hebrew. So Hebrew Israelite, Kemetic science, African spirituality. So I knew all of that information, learned about angels, astrology, and then eventually I was like agnostic. So like I knew God existed, but I didn't know what he was. The peace that I found in them 5 years is because they were willing to answer the questions. Right. But when I got into the church, and I will ask something as simple as, well, what if I don't even have the money for food? What do I do with that? But the quick thing with TIFE is just pay your 10%. Okay, I get that, but like help me make sense of it, right? They don't want to answer those questions. Or if I would say like, hey, I have a sex addiction. You don't want to talk about that in church. Like, don't bring that up. You know, so it was that space, but in all the other spaces, they're willing to sit you down. Like I remember talking to a Muslim brother recently, and he said, everything I do is an act of worship. I was like, really? He was like, yeah, when I go to the bathroom, when I eat, when we pray, everything is to worship Allah. And I was like, well, that kind of makes sense. Like, that intrigued me. It made me, and I was like, well, what are we doing as Christians? Like, how are we doing that? So it's the space of, I really want to be that person that's going to answer them questions as the best way that I can.
Yeah. And I think you are, you know, I do believe that God everybody's called to a certain people. Like, and I do think that, as far as the younger people, the younger generation, I think you are in position, you know, to help facilitate that because they don't want to go to church. They don't believe. It's like, oh, no, I don't want to do it. And it's because of, you know, some of the things that you actually spoke of. And then, too, they're looking at, they look at what they see the pastors and, you know, the leaders of the church doing. So they like, nah, he drinks or he smokes or he whatever. And then you stand up there. But then it's like, when they do stand up in front of the church, it's like sometimes people look at it as like you're looking down at me. Yeah. But you have some of the same faults as I do. Yeah. You know, and nobody is perfect. But I want to touch on something right quick. You said about the church hurt. And I spoke to a pastor about it, and he said, well, and I was telling him about, you know, like the church hurt can be one of the most words hurt sometimes.
Yeah.
And he said it's because sometimes we put a lot of expectations on the pastor, on the people. And he's saying, like, you know, we're human too. Now, what if I put that same expectation on you?
Yeah.
Then, like he said, can I do that? Can I be fair to do that? And I said, well, yeah. I said, but to me, it isn't all, to me personally, it isn't all of what you do. It's, to me, it's how you say it to me.
Yeah.
Because if you walk up and hit me, I might feel like out.
Yeah.
But I'm hella sensitive. So
Yeah.
if you say something to me, my feelings are instantly hurt.
Yeah.
So what would you say to someone who they're like tired of the church hurt? They feel as though that church isn't what people said it is because they're not reading and getting understanding for themselves.
Yeah. So I would say, you know, go on that journey. This is going to be so contradictory to what I said before, but I'm going to explain it and bring it together.
Okay.
Go on that journey alone for a little bit. The reason why I say that is I do not regret my 5 years walking away from the church.
Yeah.
I don't. You know, now it goes back to that 80%. That was my 80% moment where I was like, okay, God, because at the time I had church hurt because I became a licensed minister.
Okay.
And I was preaching. And my ex and I, we were at this older church, so we was the ones leading Bible study. We was there 8:00 service on Sundays. I was the leader of all the ministers, even though I was the newest one. So we were putting in the work. And I remember this specific Sunday, we were in charge of the youth, and the topic was addictions. I had the little kids, so, you know, we just colored and drawed or whatever, and it was done. But then my ex, he was over the older kids. It was like 13 to 16 years old. These kids kept going to the topic of sex. No matter if we were talking about, you know, addicted to lying, because that can be an addiction to gambling, an addiction to fighting, because some of them were, you know, violent. They kept coming back to sex. So here I am, you know, I'm just in the background, I'm not even saying anything, and I'm hearing the conversation. So eventually, not even in frustration, but in concern, he was like, hey, how many of y'all have watched pornography? Because they kept going back to sex. Every single kid in that room raised their hand.
Yeah.
So here I am to make sure that the young ladies wasn't feeling uncomfortable. He gave me the okay to kind of speak. I said, well, you know, if you guys are doing stuff, and we talked about why people go into that space, and a lot of times it's for attention. You know, in that time, in that moment, it makes you feel good. So if you're doing it for attention, this is what we started talking about, self-worth, things like that. The little boys excited that there's this young minister talking about, you know, if those are the things you're doing. And we didn't even talk detail. It was more of just like pouring into them. Went downstairs, told their mom that Minister Mylira was talking about she did blah, blah, blah as a teenager.
Wow.
Mind you, I didn't say any of that. Parents didn't come to me. They went straight to the head deaconess. Head deaconess called me in. She was like, if that's your testimony, we never want to hear it again. At that time, my ex was already transitioning into Hebrew Israelite. So I was like, okay. And that's really what pushed me out of the church. But going back to to answer the question, it was in that space where I gave myself permission to explore what God and who God is to me. We say God is in everything, but then we demonize everything. So it was in that moment where I literally could say, I could see God, learning about comedic science and learning about the laws of Ma'at and balance and learning about the different gods and goddesses and learning how even the Bible replicates some of the stories that is written on the pyramid temples. Like, I learned the historical part of it. I'm like, okay, but why would we demonize it if it's literally the same exact story, just different people's names?
Right.
Then I got into the African spirituality piece. And I was like, yo, you know, if my ancestors, we talk about ancestors in the Bible all the time. We talk about how we used to light incense and things like that. But when I say ancestor altar, you want to look at me like I'm crazy, but we used to do the same thing in the Bible, but it's Old Testament, so don't talk about it.
Yeah.
So it was in that period of time that was like, yo, like, I literally found God in everything. Even when it comes to astrology, the Bible talks about it. He's the one that made the moon, the sun, and all of that. And it all was intentional. Our God is so dope that he intentionally created everything to tell you who you are. When they tell us that God knows the plans he has for us, he gave it to it on our birthday. But if we actually tapped into the tools without demonizing the tools,
Yeah,
we would be so far. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, is this space of, I will tell anybody, give yourself permission to go through this solo journey to find God for you. So
for
when
yourself.
you enter the church building, the pastor's not making the experience for you.
That's right.
So when I go to church now, it's me and God.
Yeah,
and I have a dope pastor that I think probably makes God the most practical I've ever seen it. But I now don't have an expectation on him to make God God for me. I now know God in all of his essence and all of his trueness. And I can sit down with God and be like, yo, God, in this space, they'll call me a prophet. In this space, they'll call me a psychic. Whichever one it is, God, I need you to give me to be comfortable whatever your spiritual gifts is for me. That's how dope my relationship is with him.
Yeah.
So that's what I would encourage anybody. Go on that journey. If you do it that way, when you step into the church building, I'm now not looking for the church building to be my space. This is just where I actually can collaborate. And when that 2 or 3 gather together, God's in the mix, that's when you experience that. But true essence with God is in you.
Yeah, right.
So when you go and you study these things that we demonize, I'm telling you, we do such a disservice, especially in our community. We have so much richness in our history that teaches us who God is to us, the fingerprint of God. But we demonize it because it's under a different religious text or a different religious thing. But when you put them all together, they all say the same thing. It's just a different person name on it. It's a different spin on it.
Right.
And when you begin to have that space, I feel like we'll have less church hurt. When people stop finding their identity in the church and find their identity in God. It's a difference. Especially older leaders. That's why I want to go in and teach older leaders and pull them to the side to say, hey, you found your identity in this building. But who is really God? Because when you preach on Sunday, but then you go home, you going back to that bottle.
Yeah.
You going back to the pill. You going back to this because you don't have a relationship with God. And that's really what I want to do. So that my generation can come back to church. It's not that we don't want to go to church. We're tired of being hurt. We're just trying to figure out who is this God person. Because right now, the way that I'm living, my village, I don't have a village. The millennials in our village we ain't got one.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
You know, so we don't have a village. We're looking for things in the church. Dating is now situationships. It's a whole nother conversation for another day. You know, with your children, our children are now trying to figure it out, and we're trying to figure out how to raise them. But listen, technology is here. Yeah. It's so many things happening. People want the church to be a refuge, but instead it's not. It's the space where I leave and I have more questions. I leave and I feel like I'm doing worse because now and I'm not saying every pastor do this, but some pastors, they'll pick one thing that they don't agree with, and that's what all their sermons is about. Definitely. So it's like, I know you talking about me, homie. Just pull me to the side and tell me you don't like. So I think all of that, I know that was a long answer, but I'm really passionate about it. Yeah. Because we're supposed to be saving souls. Instead, we're killing souls.
That's it. It's definitely supposed to be about kingdom building. I get it. And you know what? I'm just in awe right now because you put a lot of things in perspective for me. And I'm 40, about to be 47. And, you know, like when I grew up, it was, you know, Old Testament, right? Yeah. So now we're pretty much done with the Old Testament. You know, I mean, the times have changed. Yeah. So, you know, people have changed, situations have changed. So we got to change with it. Yeah. Right? But a lot of things that I'm learning now, like get to know God for myself, right? And a lot of things that we were taught, or I was taught back then, or learned, or whatever. When I read it, I didn't see that. So it was like a lot of cliche stuff. So it's like, what are y'all talking about? Like, this don't even make sense to me. You know, so now basically what I'm saying is I see it and experience it for myself, and it's totally different from what I was taught.
Absolutely.
So, and then you have the older people who in church or traditional churches, they kind of don't want to talk about certain things, you know, but in order to make us a better people and give us the tools that we need in order to survive, it's like you must talk about it. And that's the purpose of WAGM Minute, is to inspire, encourage, and uplift our viewers every single day. Yeah. Like, we don't sit up here and just drink wine and kiki kaka. Yeah, could we? Yeah, we could. Yeah. And will we? Yeah, we will. But for the most part, it's, you know, putting out information and talking about these relevant, everyday conversation with people so that we can help move our culture forward. Yeah. That's basically what it's about. I have enjoyed. I can talk to you all day long. Like you're gonna be like in my Rolodex now, so I may not hit you up 4:15, 4:30. I know I'm not gonna do that.
I'm gonna be better.
But-
It'll be 9 o'clock business hours.
Yeah, 7:30, 8 o'clock. I'm hitting you up like, look, because I was already thinking like we got to make her a friend and wait again a minute so that she's our go-to person. Like because when we sit and we talk to people, a lot of times we find out things that are actually it's beyond what we do.
Yeah.
Right. But the hope is that we can network with people who can be able to help somebody else. Like we're going to bring it out and we're going to allow people to control their narrative. But through that, hopefully we can line people up with some help or some resources or whatever to be able to take it to the next level. Because sometimes stuff be so heavy. I'd be like, oh my God, I thank you.
Yeah.
Because it could be, like some of the things that people deal with, I truly believe this. Like God puts certain things on certain people, for certain reasons, and I feel like sometimes some of the things that I've learned from people, I'm like, there's no way I would be standing up here standing. If it was me, I probably been folded, But in all things, basically, what I'm saying is like I thank God for my journey, what He has me on. So, how can people find you on social media?
Yeah, so on Facebook, I am kind of an old person. I love Facebook. So just Mylira Green. Instagram is Mylira Transforms. TikTok, Mylira Transforms. If you want to see me dance, that's more TikTok. That's my happy place. And then my website is www.myliratransforms.com. And I always give my number. And reason being, some people are like, why do you do that? Because after all this talking, people can be like, but where do I start? So 757-609-0694. Again, 757-609-0694. It comes directly to me. You can text it. You can call it. I do have business hours, so, be mindful. But I give that because I wish somebody said it, said, hey, even if it's just this moment, of just calling and say, hey, this is my thing, and I can link you with somebody. So those are where you can find me at.
Okay. So, like I said, I've learned so much, and I'm sure that it'll be something that I can apply to my everyday life, and not just saying it, but actually doing it. Yeah. Being a doer, get out of just saying things, lip service, as you say. So we always ask our guests how their time has been since they've been on Wait Again a Minute, and being that you're on tonight, how has your time has been?
This has been amazing, to be honest. No matter how many times I may have shared certain parts of my story, God brings it out in a different way every single time. And this is a space where you can just be free and you can just be real. And whoever's going to listen, there's somebody whose life is going to be changed. There's somebody who's going to be like, oh, okay, this was the one for me. So I'm just grateful for the opportunity to be here. Yeah. I've been watching this probably like 2 or 3 years now. Right. So to actually be in the space, the energy is real. So whoever's watching this, I'm telling you, it ain't fake. It's real. So I've definitely enjoyed my time here.
Thank you. So with that being said, stay tuned to All Things Wait Again a Minute.